Okay. Good morning and welcome to the third annual We Will Walk Together event in recognition of Orange Shirt Day. My name is Carter and I'm an associate professor and director of teacher education programs in the Department of Integrated Studies here at McGill. My pronouns are she and her. McGill University is on land which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst Indigenous peoples, including the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations. At this time, I wish to begin to acknowledge and thank the diverse Indigenous people whose footsteps have marked this territory, despite our current virtual realities. As a descendant of Scottish, Irish, and Welsh labourers and orphans who came to Northwestern Ontario and Manitoba, Canada, for a variety of reasons 5 generations ago, I am learning about the land, people, and traditions where I now reside. As a way of acknowledging the land, ancestors, waters, and the space being offered today to listen and reflect on teachings, stories, and truths, I invite each of you to remove your shoes and place your feet on the ground. Once your feet are planted, I invite you to place a hand on your chest or heart and to, in your own time, with eyes closed, take 3 breaths when I say begin. With the first inhale and exhale, you will be invited to let go of the thoughts and things that were going on in your mind before coming to today's virtual panel. With the second inhale and exhale, I will invite you to connect to the place and land you are currently occupying and to consider your relationship to it, presently and historically. With your third breath and exhale, I invite you to set an intention for this time of reflection, hope, and healing we will be engaging in together. Please close your eyes and take those 3 breaths in your own time. Thank you. I would now like to introduce John Syllaboy, originally from Millbrook Mi'kmaq community, who now resides in Halifax, Nova Scotia. John graduated in international relations from Universidad Nacional in Costa Rica and with an MA Ed from MSVU. Currently, they work as the executive director of Wabanaki Two-Spirit Alliance and are a PhD candidate in the Department of Integrated Studies in Education at McGill. It is with great respect and enthusiasm that I welcome John.
Bilal and Mindy, we have a little bit of echo. Bilalio, awal daswal noim sede mudiola. Awal daswal noim mudiom seda. The tail dan we go tijik wadeshua. Awal das etil wish gudam tijik squishnoga. Mawi damk knuda masudig dan deli ginamo alugi squishnog. Well, that's the tell emu gam akatimuk dan deli da suti skujno deli akatimi mijuajistan deli eginamujuk. Nuege giskuk aidawe giskuk ankide edemino dan delugodig edawe giskuk akatimino dan gduel dak toya bol madutino edawe giskuk sewidano dolugodig doligidak giskuk edawe sewidano ginuk. Hello everyone. I'm John Nair, and I'm from Millbrook and Eskasoni First Nation. I'm Mi'kmaq, and as a Mi'kmaq guest in Gwadesh territory or Mohawk territory, Gwadesh is the word for Mohawk in our language. And as a guest in this territory, I continue to respect all of the protocols and all of the traditions that are carried over and interconnected through our ancestral beliefs together with Mohawk people of this region. We also acknowledge the fact that we continue to work together, collaborate together, and through many hundreds and thousands of years of relationships that we've had, we continue to collaborate with each other to move together on this day, especially for Truth and Reconciliation. 3 years ago, we started this conversation here at the Faculty of McGill, and we wanted to make sure that we want to celebrate Indigenous education, knowledge, living and being as Ulnug, or what we say Indigenous persons. And to highlight that process, we want to make sure that we celebrated the knowledge that our people have. In doing so, we wanted to commemorate Orange Shirt Day. And that was the first platform that we continue to work with and continue to work with today. It's expanded into a very meaningful way to acknowledge Indigenous people in our region, but also to grow knowledge around what it means for people to understand what does Orange Shirt Day mean and Truth and Reconciliation. And we expand that project campus-wide, and we try to collaborate with other nations around the region to make sure that we get it right. So today, we acknowledge that. And what I'd like to start off with is to introduce our guest speakers. We have knowledge holders, elders, knowledge seekers, and like myself, one day I would love to be an elder. This is part of the process. And I'd like to start off by introducing Elder Geraldine Standup, a traditional healer from Kahnawa. And Geraldine, I have their biography here. Geraldine Standup is a Mohawk and belongs to the Bear clan from Kahnawa, Quebec. She's a mother and a grandmother. She has knowledge of her own people, the Mohawk, and Geraldine is a traditional healer and has been on his journey for the last 30 years. She has worked with Anishinaabe, Health Toronto, and in a number of other communities providing traditional health and traditional health services. She also currently works closely with traditional approaches to healing in our community. Geraldine, it's an honor to have you here with our group.
Thank you.
Pass it over to you.
Thank you. Good job. So what I say is Skàtne Entewathahìta. Now got the how the Entewathahìta. I'll go on a headstone. I'll go Skàtne Entewathahìta.
Geraldine, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Can you unmute yourself, Geraldine?
I'm sorry, I'm a deaf person.
I know, wait, just a second.
Okay.
You're good now, Geraldine.
Okay. Good job. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Good job. So what I say is Skàtne Entewathahìta. Now got the how the Entewathahìta go on a headstone. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona ongweso a. Tori o tuhak to Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona you keep ni stahan di hunzada. A Tony o tuhak to Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona Kahnawa. A Tony o tuhak to Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona so a Tony o tuhak no Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona ohonda so a Tony o tuhak no Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona ohda so a Tony o tuhak no Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona onogwa so a Tony o tuhak no Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona ga tos a John Hekwa a Tony o tuhak no Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona ga hiso a Tony o tuhak no Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona goderio a Tony o tuhak no Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona ogwere so a Tony o tuhak no Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona oze dogo a Tony o tuhak no Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona oze no so a Tony o tuhak no Skàtne Entewathahìta. A gwego Skàtne Entewathahìta no ni Skàtne Entewathahìta. Dano de tino hwera dona you kiso togo da di weras a Tony o tuhak no Skàtne Entewathahìta. Agwagos Kadiwa, no Nina Guanigunda, none of the Tino Herada, Gaedi, Gawiraga, Antonio Duhak, no Guanigunda. Agwagos Kadiwa, no Nina Guanigunda, none of the Tino Herada, Suquate, a Jocaneco Caraqua, Antonio Duhak, no Guanigunda. Agwagos Kadiwa, no Nina Guanigunda, none of the Tino Herada, Kisota, Sutoka Caraqua. Antonio Duhak, no Guanigunda. Agwegos did a wahwet no in a Guanigunda. Dano de Tino Huerado, na you just talk Guadonio. Antonio Duhak, no Guanigunda. Agwegos did a wahwet no in a Guanigunda. Dano that's the one Huerado, no Suquaya Disu. Antonio Duhak, no Guanigunda. All I got it, Tony order. Yeah, the work such a what cannot do you to the whole is the cannot that owner as that's why I do it to go 10 so get good ha Antonio to hack no guani good than Antonio wanaka at all. Good morning. The morning prayer is done. It is called Ahondo Garifwadekwa. It's a very, very extremely shortened version being given by time constraints. Usually this prayer is done with the burning of tobacco and the expanding of expressing each thought. It is giving thanks to all of creation and naming as many as we could possibly can. So good morning, everyone. I am happy to be here this morning. I am perhaps a very rare family in a sense that my family never went to, my immediate family never went to residential school. And because of that, my family still holds our language. We still hold our traditions. We still complete our rituals and ceremonies. I was asked many years ago, some years ago, what did I do to maintain my culture? Well, it was walking with my shoes during the day when I went to our Indian day school, what they called. And so when I went to school, I wore my leather shoes and I spoke English. I did not learn to speak English until I was about 7 years old, if not later. I was very, very fortunate that when I came home from school, I was able to take off those leather shoes and put on my moccasins and speak with my family. My family are Mohawk speakers. We've always spoke Mohawk in the home. And so I was able to leave the schooling and come home and be with my family and be just who we are, just Mohawk people. My grandmother had 9 brothers and sisters. Every single one of them went to Spanish in Ontario. My grandmother was kept home to help her mother with the family. She always resented her brothers and sisters because they were able to speak English, they were able to read and write and do sums. My grandmother was never able to do that. When her brothers and sisters came home from residential school, there seemed to be a code of silence. No one ever spoke about their experiences there. And so my grandmother never knew what went on in those schools. When her brothers and sisters came home and finished and stayed home, each one of them died off. They died from tuberculosis, they died from childbirth, they died from alcoholism, all of them passed away. My grandmother survived all her brothers and sisters. To her dying day, she resented them and never knew what they went through. For that, I'm thankful for that she never knew. Luckily for us, for me, I grew up with my grandmother and my grandfather. And this is why my family still carries our culture and our language. So today, I'm honored to be here to share this little story with you. And my heart goes out to all of those who have lost their children. And my heart hurts for the pain that those little ones suffered. Thank you for hearing me.
Elder Geraldine, your words, your kind and gentle words are very important for all the speakers to hear and all the learners to hear and all our people that are sharing this day with us. I offer you words of condolence and also support and prayer to you and your community and family. Thank you for your story.
Yeah.
A lot of our shared stories, even for people who didn't go to Indian residential school, live in a community of people who, through collective consciousness, have felt and suffered their other community members' stories. And they also are compassionate and also try to provide supports with the other families. So some families didn't go to Indian residential school, and those who didn't, doesn't mean that they were any more fortunate. They also are linked to the constant ongoing stories and suffering that a lot of people have felt. And so that's important to keep in mind as we share these stories. And to move on, we are now going to begin our discussion with Nina Segalowitz, who is going to share their part of the guest speaker circle. And Nina is an Inuit throat singer and drummer originally from Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. She is currently working as a wellness worker in Quebec, and in late 2018 and March 2019, she collaborated with Dr. Minnie Carter with grade 5 and 6 students in Beaconsfield, Quebec, and their teacher, Jennifer Hayden Ben, on the creation of an original musical entitled Reconciliation. That Reconciliation explored the themes of reconciliation, moving beyond residential schools to exhibit resiliency and hope for the future generations. I offer and welcome Nina to this circle. We're going to play a recording of Nina's drumming and healing right now. It's on mute. We're just going to start it again.
The song I'm singing is also to celebrate what we're doing today, which means that we're healing ourselves and we're healing the country and we're healing our memories. And you guys are a big part of that. Hearing your voice and hearing your song heals a lot inside of me. And when Jennifer asked me to come, and I immediately said yes. Because the last time I heard your guys' voice, I fell in love and I was really moved, and I was like, anything for those kids, I'll do it. So the Dene Healing Song is also to celebrate you guys, to honor you for being here, for using your voice, for telling the truth. You know, in order to heal, we have to say what our truth is, and this is the truth of what is going on. And you guys are the next generation, and you're going to be healing us with your songs and with your hope and with your good energy. And this is to honor also your teachers, who are also responsible for teaching you the truth. And I sing for my ancestors, and I sing for my children, and I sing for my grandchildren. So this is called the Dene Healing Song. Thank you, guys. Thank you, teachers.
One of the most important things to acknowledge in this gathering of storytellers, elders, and collaborators for this event is the fact that hearing your language and hearing your song are part of the healing for our people in our future generations, next generations, current generations, and even our ancestors. It's an amazing part of the resiliency and the celebration of life that we do try to honor in the theme of these events. This year's theme means hope and resilience and healing. And so we have to acknowledge how that happens and why that happens and how to move forward. And the stories that Elder Geraldine and what Nina has just done with her singing are part of that journey. And we all have to do it together. So in the next part, I'd like to continue with inviting Claudia Mitchell to the circle. Claudia is an awesome teacher here at DICE, and she's a hero, and she continues to do a lot of work with the events, not only in our communities, but also with girls across the world, in Africa, and in our First Nation communities, for example. So I'd like to bring Claudia to the circle.
Thank you, John. So my name is Claudia Mitchell. I'm a professor in the Department of Integrated Studies and Education, the director of the Institute for Human Development and Wellbeing. And I welcome you to this We Will Walk Together event on Orange Shirt Day and the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. I offer a bit of a context for this event on behalf of the organizing committee for We Will Walk Together, which is made up of so many people from across the university and beyond. We've been working with First Peoples House, the Indigenous Initiatives Unit, the Indigenous Studies and Community Engagement Initiative, and the Faculty of Education, and so many others, McGill graduate students, undergraduate students, teachers in the field, Indigenous community members who have volunteered their time to do the behind the scenes work, or as if you've just heard from Nina and Geraldine, to perform or to present. When we first started to plan this day in the late spring, early summer of 2021, it was primarily as a Faculty of Education-led event, and it would be our third Orange Day event dating back to 2019. But then just into the planning was the uncovering of the unmarked graves in Kamloops. And even before our Prime Minister declared the day as a National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, we knew that it had to be a broader community of McGill event. Optimistically, we thought we might be all in person in one place on campus, but that was simply not possible due to the ongoing COVID-19 restrictions. And so we have this blend, which we hope will continue to work. Some members of the program are in small groups in a couple of places on campus, Zooming in from First Peoples House, here in the Faculty of Education. Some speakers are Zooming in from their home, as we had with Geraldine, and still others, like Nina, are on video, available through Zoom. This means that the event cannot have the same type of interaction that we would have wanted, but we invite people to go after this to the Indigenous Initiatives Unit website to leave comments, or really to leave comments in the Zoom chat this morning. We are aware that this virtual platform may mean that some people will be excluded, but we plan to post as many of the videos as possible through the Faculty of Education website. And in particular, we invite people to check out a set of curriculum resources that have been put together by one of the subcommittees within our organizing group. And just to acknowledge the power of face-to-face, this day at McGill did start off with a small, very small piping ceremony led by traditional support counselor Tom Deerhouse at First Peoples House. And right after this event, this morning, many of you will participate in other truth and reconciliation activities on campus or in your own community. And we hope many of you will be joining into a student-led march immediately after this event, and there will be more information to come. We have organized this event under the umbrella of Healing and Hope, which we think encapsulates a morning of reflection, learning, and most importantly, moving forward together. We are hearing from residential school survivors, and we'll be hearing from other Indigenous speakers about the significance of healing and hope. But as part of that hope, we will also be hearing from an amazing group of children and their song of reconciliation with their music teacher, Jen Hayden Ben. And again, Nina Segalowitz will be coming back. Some of you may have seen coverage of their performance on global TV just a couple of nights ago. We know we will be commemorating this tragedy and the education of at residential schools for years to come. While this is the third year that the Faculty of Education has been recognizing Orange Shirt Day, it is the first year where we have come together as a university community. It gives more meaning than ever to "We will walk together." Thank you. And I now thank you for joining us and turn this over to the Dean of the Faculty of Education, Dr. Dilson Rassier, who will offer his official welcome from the faculty. We've been so grateful to Dilson for his wonderful support for We Will Walk Together, and we look forward to his comments right now. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I was not able to unmute myself. I think now it's clear. Thank you very much. It's an honor. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. I don't have much to say after the very, very powerful words by Elder Geraldine and by Nina's performance and what Claudia just said. I am very, very proud to actually be the dean of a faculty that actually started this We Walk Together event, especially under the leadership of Mindy Carter and Claudia Mitchell. I think that this has ignited a spark now for so many students and colleagues across campus, on our Indigenous colleagues, on other units here at McGill, that I'm very proud and I'm very, very pleased that this is actually happening the way it is right now. Although, like Claudia said, it would be much nicer if you could have a face-to-face event, perhaps next year. We can try to do that in an even larger event. We have now partnered with the First People's House, McGill's Indigenous Initiatives Units, Indigenous Studies and Community Engagement, and so many other people to make this happen that I can only say this is a very, very important day for the faculty and for McGill, I think. I'm not going to add too much. I'm just going to thank you very much to make the effort to be here again. And I would like to thank especially those who organized these events. I would like to thank very much the committee who organized events, everybody who was involved in the organization of this event. And I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic day for everybody here. So thank you very much. And again, for participating and welcome to the Faculty of Education, even if attending by Zoom. Thank you.
Well, Ali, Dean Race here. It seems like only yesterday that our team sent you emails and knocked on your door and looked for your support, and you were very welcoming in the idea of supporting this initiative and making sure that we had ways to provide supports even to our elders who took part in this, the drummers and the first walkers that we did in that first year, and we continue to do so this year and ongoing. So it's an amazing initiative supported by the leadership at McGill. We continue to look for your support. Thank you. So in the next part, looking at my notes here, we have the next part, again, back to this story segment. And I have the privilege of introducing to you Tom Deerhouse. I'm glad I have these notes in front of me, because otherwise I'd be playing bingo with folks in this room. Tom, I'm a huge fan, and I love your work and what you do for support. So Tom Deerhouse is Gwadesh or Mohawk, and Ojibwe from Kahnawa, from Kahnawake Mohawk territory, and Anishinaabe from Garden River First Nation. Tom is a traditional support worker who works on the Kahnawake Mohawk Reserve near Montreal. His job as a traditional support counselor involves allowing community members to tell their stories and offer cultural teachings, especially the Mohawk creation story, to address trauma and to provide solid foundation for moving forward. this is the spirit of what we want to acknowledge when we move forward with this process. And telling the story is incredible. So we're going to allow Tom to take it away. Thank you, Tom. Lali.
Thanks, John, for the introduction. I'll
You're
get right
on
into
mute.
it. Oh. Yeah, okay. I'm told I'm good. The volume is okay. I'll start by telling my story, a very short story of how I got to Kahnawake. Left Detroit, Michigan at the age of 21. Opportunity to help out my family, my father's relatives, Tom and Annie Two Rivers, and their sons, Billy Two Rivers and Zicky Joe Two Rivers. And thinking that was a wonderful place, Kahnawake, paradise compared to the States. And there were good parts. But as I gradually got into the community life and got involved in the community with fire brigade and ambulance work, construction work, and then social work, present day, and a little bit of time at the band council and a journalist with the Eastern Door newspaper, varied experience. I found that underlying there's people's stories of trauma and hurt from residential school and other things, but that was struck by me. And so I find myself today, my current job as a traditional support worker, kind of like having a backpack, and I'm listening to people's stories as I'm providing emotional support, whether it be residential school survivors themselves or their family members, telling me that, boy, I had a rough childhood. Either parent might have been very strict or very rough, or quite the opposite, very neglectful, and they weren't around that much. So in my backpack, a range of stories and how to get through that, how to help people. Especially in the last 4 or 5 years, focused on like a spiritual approach or a cultural approach. And what I found and what I believe in is with a spiritual lens and this spiritual approach, we can do a lot of things as helpers. We can help people one-on-one. We can do group work, but especially with the one-on-one, using a spiritual approach, we can get people unstuck in one area, work through that trauma, and so that they can get some more stability and continue the work of just getting everyone trying to have a good life and with a good mind and some emotional stability and just a good life. So in my work, I'll just touch on really quickly. I've met many or quite a few survivors and their stories, and rather than focus on their traumas and hurts, I kind of describe that as life lessons for them. And then I point out to them, it's no wonder that many of these survivors go on to good careers in terms of taking care of children. Some have gone on in their adult life to become great teachers, educators, principals, taking care of children, also the nursing field, business administrators, while at the same time raising families and kind of breaking that cycle of poor parenting skills that they never received nurturing, and they've developed it on their own. So that's where the hopefulness comes in. We know, just recently I read something from Senator Murray Sinclair, and I'll paraphrase. It was education through the residential schools and the oppressive nature of that got Indigenous people into this situation of the trauma, generations of that. And he says it's going to be education that gets us out, meaning Indigenous people will educate on knowing about the trauma, but taking it a step further and applying their strengths. And resiliency is used a lot by all these things. And this is where we're going to grow. And that's not only Indigenous people, it's also non-Indigenous, because we do need kind of people to witness that. And when they witness that, this is leading the way to a mutual coexistence, which is described in Mohawk tradition through the Kaswanta and two-row wampum. We're living our lives in parallel together, and we're trying to find that peace that we all need. We're trying to learn from each other and just trying to have a good life once again with a good mind. And so that's where I find myself. And so earlier this morning, I'll kind of repeat what my thoughts were. Orange Shirt Day is fine. This Truth and Remembrance holiday is significant in the sense that it's the start of something. But for me, in my work, and I guess everyone's work too, it's one step in the process that we're going to make this holiday and each day of our lives more productive and meaningful for the people that we encounter, the people that we work with. We're going to grow ourselves inside and possibly gain more skills and more experiences. And that's what I found. And once again, I'm coming from the First People's House, and I met a woman, a lady, and she wants to talk further. So that's building networks and building connections where I can share what I know and help students and maybe help in a small way in terms of education, not just culturally, but how to work through trauma, how to work through grief. And at the same time, this making the younger generations, the generations that are coming behind, a little bit more stronger. I went so far in my education, a little bit more than my dad, who was passed on. And so we're getting stronger. And just yesterday, I talked to high school students, man, you have to follow your dreams and you have goals. And if your goal or if your gifts are in the language and culture, there's definitely going to be jobs for you. There's going to be career for you, and you're going to be so satisfied. And at the same time, you're going to be making yourself stronger no matter what your background, if you had parents or if you didn't have parents, or if they didn't raise you in the best way possible. They did the best they can, but you're the one to make it stronger for the next generations. So I'm going to try to wind it up. I'm not sure of the time. I could comment too on some of the other initiatives I'm involved in. I'm at well, really quickly, I'll mention I hang around with some big shots. I call them Indigenous leaders and some Catholic leadership, talking about reconciliation and just the healing and what went on with residential schools and there's orders of priests, and they're dealing with the unmarked grave. So some of them are kind of feeling ashamed and guilty, but it's not all about blaming. It's all about trying to work together and work through that. It wasn't themselves, it was their order. And I guess underlying that too is, you might hear in the news that there's a delegation of Indigenous leadership, elders, youth, and others who will be going to Rome, where the Pope Francis will listen to these words of Indigenous people and then take it from there. I don't expect an apology, but it may lead to an invitation or a visit by Pope Francis sometime next year. We'll see about that, but it's very interesting times. It's important to take care of ourselves and maintain ourselves, and not to be thrown off by the more news which is expected of these unmarked graves. And I'm following that closely and trying to just keep it in perspective and keep on doing the work. So I'll leave my words there, and I wish everyone a great rest of the day. I might check out the march also and leave it there. Yawagoa.
Always a pleasure to hear you. Can I hear me? I can't see if I can hear myself or not. Yeah. Always a pleasure to hear you speak and share your wisdom. So that's very important. One of the things I captured from your story and your chat was the fact that the truth of reconciliation and the calls to action, for example, we have to look at how post-secondary institutions like McGill and other institutions move forward in making sure that we apply those truth of reconciliation calls to action. But also important is that they're not only mere outcomes or benchmarks for evaluation to get to those. They should be really points of departure and moving forward from there. So that's important. Now we're going to go into the next session. And I'm just trying to get my thoughts here in order. We're going to have a performance. Just to clarify, do we have, I have in here also, Elder Geraldine is going to come back up and share another story. True? Just want to confirm that. Is that true? Okay. Sorry about that, Elder Geraldine. I'm going to call you back up to share another story, please, during this story speaking part. Well,
Okay.
I think you're still muted. No, you're still muted. Just a second.
I did.
Now.
Okay. I'm a deaf person, so I have no idea if I'm on or off. Okay. You know, I have been a healer for many years. For, I don't know, more than 35 years anyway. I have come across so much. As I spoke earlier, I don't, in my own particular family, we don't have residential school survivors in my immediate family. However, as a traditional healer, I have come across people from all across Canada. I worked at Anishinaabe Health, Toronto for, I think it was 21 years. And because it's such a metropolitan environment, I came across our peoples from the west all the way to the east, from the north as well. The emotional suffering that our people have had to bear is staggering. And each and every one that comes in with some kind of physical ailment always has its roots in emotional and psychological trauma that we suffer as children. We carry this for an entire lifetime. Without forgiveness, you won't heal. I had a very, very clarifying experience not too long ago. My mother, who was still alive about 6 years ago, said to me, "Take me to the hospital. I want to visit my brother." So I said, okay. It was wintertime. So I put her in the car and I drove to the hospital, which is a 2-minute ride. And I went looking for a parking spot. And my mother said, no, she says, just take me to the door. She says, when I'm done, I'll call you and you can come and get me. So I said, well, no, I want to go and see Uncle myself. I haven't seen him in a while. So as a healer, I walk in and out of that hospital numerous times. And it's a situation where you know a place so well that you don't really see it until one day, all of a sudden, something changes. And that's what happened to me this day. I walked into a lounge area where the patients were gathering to socialize, I guess. There was one woman who was crying nonstop. Another woman was trying to maneuver her wheelchair. Another one was worse, tied into her wheelchair. And it was that moment when I realized these people are carrying all of their hurts and pains of a lifetime that they have never released, let go, forgave. And now this is the result of that. Sickness isn't always about germs and viruses. It is about the psyche, and it is about our feelings and the emotions we put into our experiences. We carry that within ourselves. Our body never forgets anything. At some point in time in our youth, we're able to forget about it and carry on. But at some point, we turn a corner where we can't do that anymore. And all of these sickness, sadness, sorrows, grief is toxic to your body, to your physical body. And so by the time we reach our old age at 70s, 80s, now it begins to play havoc with our physical bodies. And this is the moment of clarity. And I thought, oh my gosh, in my work, no matter what you bring to me, I will tell you that you need to forgive. Forgiveness is all about letting go. It doesn't mean that it's okay that someone can hurt you in such a fashion. It just means let it go so that it doesn't hurt you, that you're able to move on in your life. And I don't care what disease you come to me with, the bottom line is let it go. Because disease is a mind construct. It is constructed in the psyche and in the emotion, which gives you a very fertile ground for sickness to happen. And my gosh, what an awakening that was for me. And so in these last years of my own life, it is what I teach every day to everyone that comes to me, whether it is a physical ailment, a stress time, whatever it is, the bottom line is forgiveness. That's the only way. So many people, and you know, this is hard to hear when we're looking at so many people suffering from the atrocities of what we do to one another, and to forgive that. Forgiveness is healing. It heals you, but it also heals your perpetrator. And so, from a spiritual perspective, it releases karma. And so, at least that's what I think the word means, is that it's released and it will not play back again. Otherwise, you will keep re-experiencing and experiencing the same thing over and over and over unless you release it. So this is what I share with you today. I must have gone through thousands of people in my lifetime doing this healing work. It is about teaching. Healing and teaching means the same thing. We heal when we learn and we understand. And so I'll share that with you today. So thank you for hearing me.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Your message is powerful and truly felt by everybody. Walalieg. A huge part to our healing, of course, and the theme, if there is a theme, of our activity today is forgiveness and moving forward, but together. And we honor that. And forgiveness is the only way. It is the only way, as Elder Geraldine had said. Forgiveness is a huge, powerful word that helps with the process of reconciliation. And this is a characteristic and a value, a cultural value a lot of Indigenous cultures share through their wisdom. And I hear it in our language as well. It's called Abiksikdalan. And it's one of our core values in making sure that we heal through forgiveness. So in continuing with today's event, I think we're still on schedule, looking at the time here. And we're exactly on schedule, actually. I want to share the next part, which is a musical performance. And it's by students of the St. Edmund Elementary School. And with that performance, we have Nina again, Segalowitz, wellness worker, originally from Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, a throat singer and drummer, and Jennifer Hayden, music teacher from St. Edmund Elementary School. When I speak Mi'kmaq and go back to English and then try to go back to English again, it rattles. So I'll read briefly Jennifer's bio. Jennifer is an elementary music teacher in the West Island of Montreal. Originally from New Brunswick, yay, Maritimer, she holds a BEd and MA from McGill. Her interest in collaborating with Carter was to look at how this performance would be part of that activity. So we're going to go ahead with the activity. Please post the video, St. Edmund song.
What have you seen in your short, long life? Where did your tiny feet roam? All the things you have done on top of being a wife, a mother, a daughter, a home. What have you seen in your short, long life? What has your heart overcome? The traditional ways that are hidden away can be revived by the beat of a drum. What have you seen in your short, long life? What did those tiny hands do? Stretching, scraping, fixing and making, mending the skins that our souls feel within. Stitching, nothing can undo. What did those tiny hands do? What have you seen in your short, long life? What has your heart overcome? The traditional ways that are hidden away can be revived by the beat of a drum. What have you seen in your short, long life? Witness to so many wrongs. Relocation, damnation, and misinformation. Some mention our nation still strong. What have you heard in your short, long life? When did they silence your voice? Stories they spun made you swallow your tongue, made you feel like it was your choice. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Spectacular. How amazing. What a wonderful way to celebrate our day today with music by children. I try to remember as a kid in choirs, I used to fake my lips moving because I couldn't remember the names of the songs or anything. And I would be moving my lips, and my mother would be looking at me and she'd say, "You weren't even singing right." But at least these kids had their mouths covered. Amazing. And well done to the folks who organized this. I want to also, speaking of technology and this process about doing work like this, I want to give a shout out to the technology group who's making this possible for us, who are in the participatory cultures lab. Without them, I'd be moving my lips again and you'd be looking at me quite often and not knowing what I'm saying. They've been instrumental in making sure that we get things done. And part of it is to get everything in process here. So I want to also introduce someone who's going to be talking about the student-led solidarity march that's going to be happening this afternoon, or immediately after, I should say. When we did our walk 3 years ago, it was a walk. It was a healing walk that we did in the mountain here. And we had drummers that opened it up and also welcomed us when we finished the walk coming around. Last year, we made sure that when COVID happened, we had a land-based activity and we invited people to go out and try to be involved with being outside. Part of our healing is where we are at with land and with people being together and hearing stories, let's say from Geraldine and also from Tom. These are incredible processes that we all celebrate as ways of making sure that we go forward. So I'm going to introduce Darshan, who is pursuing a Bachelor's of Arts degree at McGill University. He is involved with he was involved in the second activity that we did last year, We Will Walk Together event. And he's going to talk a little bit about what's going to go on this afternoon or immediately after. And he's going to share the details of the student-led march. Please take it away, Darshan.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. And I would like to extend an invitation for everyone to join us for the in-person iteration of the We Will Walk Together march. This march is held in collaboration with the Indigenous Law Society, as well as the Law Students Association. It will begin with a drumming ceremony, a moment of silence, as well as a prayer on the top of McTavish Street and the intersection with Dr. Penfield. I encourage everyone to wear your orange t-shirts as well as to join us for the march that will take place at Place du Canada, hosted by the Native Women's Shelter of Montreal. So the path that we will be taking will be starting at McTavish, going down, turning right on Sherbrooke Street, and then turning left again on Peel, just to avoid much disruption. This SPVM will be present to help us with crowd control. And I encourage everyone to join us for the ceremony and to once again remember the ongoing colonial violence, as well as the legacy and trauma that residential school survivors and those that never came home have had to endure. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing everyone.
Wilali Darshan, and part of the activity in learning together and even the whole celebration of We Will Walk Together comes from the spirit of us putting our hands together, our arms together as we move forward and making sure that we get it right and we start to recenter everything that has to do with Indigenous knowledge, Indigenous education, Indigenous peoples, Indigenous culture, everything, recentering it back into our learning possibilities for our children. They have to learn from our perspectives and with our language and making sure that we try to move forward together. We always said that we can't do these things alone. We can't do them by ourselves. We have to make sure that we always have to go forward. So I just have a little, just a second for a second. And before we continue with the next part, we're going to share a video, and then we're going to go back and do closing words as well. So we're going to share another video right now.
Before reconciliation, there must be truth. One of these truths is that
Volume.
all Canadian settlers are responsible to play their part in the healing process. Meaningful reconciliation involves recognizing the true history of this country and engaging with all Indigenous peoples to ensure that we can correct their past and ongoing injustices.
À moins que vous étiez sur notre planète depuis ce printemps, vous avez assurément entendu parler des découvertes des enfants autochtones près des anciens pensionnats indiens. C'est une réalité tragique de l'histoire du Canada, mais c'est un fait que les Canadiens savaient déjà, tel que nous l'a appris le rapport de la Commission sur la vérité et la réconciliation il y a 6 ans. Comme société, il faut cesser de s'aveugler volontairement. Il faut prendre au sérieux l'existence et l'impact du colonialisme sur les peuples autochtones du Canada.
September 30th is Orange Shirt Day, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. The rationale is to educate people about the Indian residential school system and the impact it has had on Indigenous communities for over a century, an impact recognized as a cultural genocide. This federal holiday is also meant to recognize the strength and resiliency of Indigenous communities. On September 30th, consider wearing an orange shirt in recognition of the victims of the residential school system and to honor the strength and resiliency of Indigenous communities today. Thank you.
On nous a légué un héritage bien lourd avec l'histoire sombre de notre pays. C'est pourquoi il est important d'en parler, de s'en souvenir et d'en tirer des leçons pour que cela ne se répète jamais. Le travail de réconciliation est l'affaire de chacun d'entre nous. Il est important de commencer ou de continuer notre propre réflexion par rapport à la réconciliation. Il reste bien du travail à faire, donc il faut retrousser nos manches et nous engager. As Justice Murray Sinclair said, the cost of doing nothing is worse than the cost of doing something.
The Indigenous Law Association Droit Autochtone, the McGill Law Students Association, the Student Society of McGill University would like to extend an invitation to walk together and march in solidarity for the victims and survivors of the residential school system. The march will begin with a drumming ceremony followed by a vigil and a moment of silence. Prior to the event, we will be fundraising by selling orange t-shirts in order to donate to the Indian Residential School Survivor Society. For now, we encourage you to invite your friends to the event, to spread the word, and to buy your orange t-shirt. On September 30th, 2021, I will be walking
in solidarity for reconciliation because every child matters. What about you?
Le 30 septembre, je porterai mon t-shirt orange.
Et je vais marcher en solidarité pour la réconciliation parce que chaque enfant compte. Et vous?
On September 30th, we will be walking together because every child matters. Join us! Woo! That's it, guys.
Incredible. This We Walk Together event grows and it extends to other faculties outside of education. That was the whole intent, I think, when we started collaborating years ago. I was the only Indigenous student in the group with a bunch of faculty and wonderful people that were allies with this activity. And we really held our ground together to make this happen. As part of the event, we don't want to have always events that are somber. We have to look at storytelling as something that's always meant to be educational. It's an opportunity also to use humor. And I wanted to share a little bit of something here. And I was looking at Elder Geraldine's last name, Standup. And I was looking at Tom's last name being Deerhouse. And about 10 years ago, when I started working in this area of advocacy, for example, I was at a meeting in Saskatoon, and all these folks around the table, they were introducing themselves. And they all were saying, my name's Geraldine Standup. They were saying Tom Deerhouse. Someone said Little Bear. Someone said Cloud. Someone said Rain. And they said, what's your last name? And my last name, I said, is Silly Boy. So they all laughed, of course. They said, no, what really is your last name? And I said, it's Silly Boy. So they all had a good crack at that. And it's all important that we find humor, and humor is part of that healing process as we move forward. We always have to express ourselves in the best way possible. We move forward in the best way possible. And the most important thing is forgiveness, wisdom, and moving forward together. So that's the message that I'm leaving you with. And the challenge I'm leaving you with is to make this event grow each year more into other faculties on the campus within McGill, but also from McGill to go to Concordia, to go to University of Quebec, to go to the Champlain colleges, for example. We need to expand this activity, and let's do that together. And we have the support of the Kahnawa community. We've done that from the beginning. We sought their guidance in making sure that we got this right. And we continue to seek their guidance when it comes to making sure that we are celebrating this with community. Community is not just campus. Campus represents community. And this is the best way that we have to make sure that the community folks like Geraldine, like Tom, and everybody else from Kahnawa always lead this event as well. So I'm going to hand it back over to Elder Geraldine to give the closing remarks. And I'll see you at the student-led march. As a middle-aged student, I'm proud to be part of the march. See you then.
Thank you. Well, this is my first experience being involved in reconciliation. But I'd like to think that I've been involved in that for the greater part of my life, in bringing people together. It is what it involves, and it's a very, very big thing, especially during this pandemic time, is to not be afraid of one another, to be able to speak to one another, to share our experiences, our knowledge, and our love with one another. And it is vital to the Native people of this continent that we do this, that we come together and be together to speak and to share and to love one another. And so I'm going to close. It is going to be very, very short. Dahil nuhurado na sugaya diso. Tiskana tiniti wachago do instead what godisa no one is erada. You weza I dahu sada de no da rundo dam gwesu I togi no one you one again. I am just grateful to the great mystery that we are able to come together today to share in our experiences. And so I am very grateful for that. Thank you, all of you. Good day.
Well, Ali, that will be the conclusion of our event. We'll see you at the other end in the walk. Have a good one.
All right.